Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will continue to learn about Sublime Text. In particular, we will learn what a macro is, how to record and save a macro, and how to even bind one to a keyboard command. Let's dive right in. So the question is, what is a macro? I think of a macro as a command or an action, or more typically, a group or a series of commands and actions that we can save and then recall whenever we want to use it again. So, for example, let's imagine that we are writing CSS and we're creating a new rule. So let's imagine we are creating a rule and the selector has a class of banner. Now you can see where my cursor is. We all know what the next steps are. We hit spacebar, curly brackets, and then enter. Now, those are three fairly robotic actions that we must repeat every time we create a new CSS rule. Spacebar, curly brackets, enter. And there's no sense in repeating ourselves if we don't need to. So what if instead I could perform that series of actions just once and say, hey, Sublime Text, please watch and record and remember what I'm about to do, so we can reuse it again later. This is exactly what a macro is. So to tell Sublime Text to begin watching us, we hit Control Q on our keyboards, which I just pressed. So Sublime Text is now watching me. So I will hit spacebar, curly brackets, enter. And now I want Sublime Text to stop watching me. So I will hit Control Q again. Sublime Text is temporarily saving that series of actions in its macro buffer. So we should probably take it for a test drive before we save it permanently. So to do that, let's take it for a spin. Let's create a new rule, create a selector with a class of hero, and then to test out our macro, we will go to Tools, Playback Macro. And it worked perfectly. So it just repeated the actions that we told it to record. I'm happy with what it recorded, so I want to save it permanently now. So go to Tools, Save Macro. Sublime Text will automatically save this in the correct system folder, so I will name this New Curly Line. Make sure that it has an extension of .sublime macro, and let's save this. Now that we've saved our macro, even if we quit the Sublime Text application and come back tomorrow and relaunch the app, let's imagine we want to create a new rule. Sidebar. Go up to Tools, look under Macros. It will be under the User section, and here it is, New Curly Line. So I will click that, and there is our macro. All right, now many of you just raised your hands and started screaming at me, asking why would I bother clicking through this maze of a menu to click on something instead of just hitting a few keys on my keyboard, spacebar, curly brackets, enter. Well, I see where you're coming from, but now that we've saved our macro, we can bind it to a keyboard shortcut. And that is where things get truly powerful. And that's exactly what we are going to do right now. So we learned in an earlier lesson that to customize our key bindings, we look for the Preferences menu. On PC, that will be in the main Sublime Text menu. On Mac, it's under Sublime Text, Preferences. We are looking for Key Bindings User. All right, so we are familiar with this syntax a bit from an earlier lesson. So let's just copy one of the lines, be sure to add a comma, and then paste in a duplicate copy. Very quickly, I will hollow out the skeleton of this new line. Okay, so what keyboard shortcut do we want to trigger the curly bracket macro? I will go with Alt and Enter. Okay, and what do we want to happen when we push this keyboard shortcut? We want to run that macro that we just recorded. So the command will be run macro file, and we need to provide this run macro file command with an argument. So comma args colon, and the only argument that we need to provide is a path and a file name to our macro file. So new set of curly brackets, pointing to a file, colon, new curly brackets, and now we just spell out the directory and the file name. So it's relative to Sublime Text, so we go inside the Packages folder. We saved it inside the User folder. So we're in the right folder, now we just type out the name of the file. If you can't remember the name of the macro file, go to the Preferences menu and click Browse Packages. Hop into the user folder. Okay, so here is the macro file that we just created. So I named it new curly line dot. The extension is Sublime macro. All right, hit save, and let's take this for a test drive. So let's imagine we are creating a new CSS rule with a class of post, Alt, Enter. That's pretty smooth. Hooray, Alt, Enter. So you can see how that saves you time. Let's see how this same macro and keyboard shortcut fares in JavaScript. So let's imagine we were writing an if statement, if some variable equaled 2. Now I can already see the issue here. If I hit Alt, Enter, it adds a space, curly brackets, and return still inside the parentheses. What we really want to happen is move to the end of the line and then perform the macro. So let's just save a new version of our macro. So Control Q to tell Sublime Text to begin listening. Let's move to the end of the line. On Mac, that's Command and the right arrow key. On PC, just press the End key, which is to the right of your backspace key. So we moved to the end of the line. Now let's include a space, curly brackets, Enter, and now let's tell Sublime Text to stop listening. Control Q. Let's save this. So Tools, Save Macro. I'm simply going to overwrite the same macro that we already created. New curly line. Go ahead and replace it. So let's try this out. If posts equals 3, Alt, Enter, hooray. Let's make sure that it still meets our needs when we are writing CSS. Guest post, Alt, Enter, works like a charm. And that will bring this lesson to a close. Now that you know what a macro is, how to record and save one, and even bind one to a keyboard shortcut, I hope you can use your imagination to create macros that eliminate some of the repetitive tasks that you perform. If you want a bit of extra credit, I will point out that there's more than one way to create a macro. So we use the method of having Sublime Text watch us, but you could also write your own code to program a macro. So for example, under Preferences, choose Browse Packages, hop into your user folder, and drag your macro file into Sublime Text. And you can see the code that Sublime Text generated for us while it was watching us to create this macro. So first it's moving to the end of the line, then it's adding a space, then it's adding curly braces, and then it's adding a new line in those braces. So if you are in an especially nerdy mood, feel free to create or manipulate your macros this way. That's going to do it for this lesson. I hope you feel like you learned something. In our next lesson, we will learn how to begin customizing Sublime Text visually to meet our preferences. Should be a lot of fun. I will see you then. The lesson you just watched is a part of my web development workflow course. The course covers Sublime Text, Sass architecture and organization, Git, Grunt, Bower, and more, and we use all of this to build a modern website together. The lessons that are about a single tool will be available for free on YouTube, and the lessons where we really sink our teeth into something or see how 2 or 3 tools are coming together, or maybe write a bit of custom CSS or JavaScript together, will be part of the premium course. If you want to be notified when the premium course is released, you can sign up via the description for this video. Or if you're watching this video in the future, the course has been released, and you can find a heavily discounted coupon code in the description for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.